Vocal topic of the week 14, mixing part 1. Big topic, big topic, big topic. I've spent years of my life talking about mixing, and I'm going to spend more years talking about it, and I learn stuff about it all the time. So let me get you going on it. It's the secret to high notes. It's the secret to freedom from tension in your singing. It's the secret to unlocking so much of what mystifies people with the voice. Let me break down what's going on anatomically, then I'm going to get into some, describing the function of it. I'm going to just talk about vertical mixing today. I'll talk about horizontal mixing, or what we call messa di voce, on another video, all right? So here we go. Anatomically, what's going on with mixing? Pop out the larynx, boop, look at it from the top here. The vocal folds, when you're breathing, they're open with this V. When you go to sing or talk, they close. When you change pitch, they stretch and tighten. They pull back. And that stretching and tightening, just like stretching and tightening the string on a guitar or ukulele, it makes the pitch go higher. That's what's happening with your vocal folds, okay? Now, if it were just that, there would be no such thing as registers of the voice for the most part. It would just go smoothly up and down, because just think about the strings of a guitar or a ukulele. When you tighten them, it's not like they go bow, 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 and they completely become a whole different sound. They just get higher and higher in pitch as you tighten it. But the vocal folds have another thing going on. Everybody's experienced at one point in their lives, guys and girls, this feeling of having a break in your voice, or like that kind of yodely feeling, right? Well, what that yodely feeling is, let's break down what that is, because your understanding of that's going to help you understand how to blend your registers or smooth out your ups and downs, okay? So we take the vocal folds, we're breathing, they're open. When we go to sing, they close. When we change pitch, they stretch. That's not only what's going on. There's a lot going on, but I'm going to tell you one other thing going on that pertains to mixing, and that is, in addition to the stretchy muscle, there's a thing, another muscle group called the vocalis muscle. Not group, there's another muscle called the vocalis muscle that is a passenger muscle right along, that it's hanging out there with the cricothyroid, which is the one that stretches to change the pitch. And so it can mess with the stretching as it's happening. You know, imagine two muscles that can decide to work together. It's sort of that same idea. So when you're doing the stretching and changing pitch, if the vocalis muscle, the passenger muscle, is just chilling out, he's just hanging out, not involved, taking a nap, then it will be a very light vocal sound. Ooh, and only the little teeny sort of thin inside part of the vocal fold's vibrating. The whole meat and potatoes of the vocal fold is not engaged, because the vocalis muscle hasn't gone and thickened them up. So when I make that light sound, ooh, it's very smooth. There's not a lot of relationship, or not a lot of coordination needed between the vocalis, or the thickener muscle, and the stretchy one, because the vocalis isn't involved yet. Bear with me, I know that may have been complicated. Let me break down this next part. Here's what the vocalis is. When you make a chest voice or belty sound, like that, ba ba ba, what's happened is I've stretched the chords to this pitch, and then I thickened the chords too, which then required me to put more air through them, which made me make a louder sound. So it's what I call a more thickened vocal fold sound. The more that you engage the vocalis muscle, ba 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 ba, and I'm really exaggerating there, the more that you engage the vocalis muscle, the more air pressure is required against the instrument to make the instrument vibrate. All right? Everybody with me so far? Cricothyroid, that's the stretchy muscle to change pitch. The vocalis muscle is like another muscle right on top of that one that can thicken, or can be thickened or thinned, while the one that's changing the pitch is doing its thing. And when that vocalis muscle engages, it changes the tone of your voice, okay? So, ba 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 is a very thickened vocal fold sound, meaning I stretched to whatever the pitch was I just sang, and then thickened my chords. Ba 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 ba. Now, if I were to go higher and try to keep that thickening, and the vocalis is like, we're going to hold on, we're going to fight the stretching happening, then what happens is it does this. Bop, 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 bop. Like, I'm going to be really loud into this phone, sorry guys. Like this, kind of pressing the chords. If you don't let go of that, the secondary muscle thickening, then you cap out and you get stuck. It's like the vocal folds need to stretch to here to sing this high, but because you're so thickened, it's like that one muscle's pulling back. The chords can't stretch all the way up to the pitch, because you're fighting the ability for those chords to stretch all the way. Okay? So, and let me explain, like, people with that problem, I've had people come to me all the time let me think of a female student that would come to me that sang in choir her whole life, and she said, I'm an alto and I can't sing high like the sopranos. 9 times out of 10, I already know exactly what to do with that voice for the next probably 4 months from just those words, because what that told me was that they have a tendency of getting so used to singing in that thickened vocal fold state all the time that they're just not used to using their thin vocal fold posture. And usually those women that would say, I'm an alto, they may be like a lower type of female voice potentially, or maybe have a darker, warmer, lower extension. But that doesn't mean they couldn't sing likely most of the notes of the soprano part. Because usually it's just they're just not, they don't either know how to access their head voices yet, or their thin vocal fold posture. They don't know how to let go of the thickener because they're so used to thickening in the alto section all the time. That they're not used to letting go into that thin vocal fold posture. So for them, I have to give them a lot of head voice exercises, a lot of releasing of the thickening and understanding airflow. That's the way I would solve that, you know. So people just understand, if you're a thickener singer, you probably have a higher voice than you think once you learn how to mix and let go of the thickening. All right. So now let's get back to the topic of coordinating this, okay? And what are some solutions and applications for it? All right. So as we have this thickener. We think, let's break down what a yodel is, because then that will help us talk about the application of the solution. A yodel is a break in the voice. And if we were to yodel, think about it like this. I'm going to take and pick a note. We'll take the F, and I'm going to thicken my chords. Like this, really thickened. And then I'm going to pull and really I'm going to make my thickener muscle fight my stretcher muscle. And then all of a sudden, I'm going to let go of my thickener muscle, and my chords are going to go and go like that. That's yodeling. Watch. Hear that? So it's like I'm thickening and then I let it go. Okay. Like if you guys know pop music, Zombie, the Cranberries from the 90s, from my college days. Listen to that in the dorm room all the time. Zombie. You know, but she uses that as an effect in her singing. Same thing with was a Chris Isaak song, Wicked Game. Noah. Hear that little What I'm doing there is I'm leaning on the thickening a little bit, then letting it snap, and then I snap up, okay? That's an effect. And that's because I understand the relationship of thicken and then let go of thin. Okay, so now in singing, most of the time we don't want to do the we don't do that thick and thin snap thing. We want to figure out how to smooth it out, like someone like Sam Smith. God, what an absolute master of mixing he is. Now, and we talk about him in mixing. I talk about him, but women mix like him all the time. The only thing that makes him unique is he's a guy that mixes as well as women, or he's a guy that sings in a range of his voice that accesses mixing a lot. Like a lot of men sing usually under their break, and if they have to mix over an E or an F, it's a much less frequent coordination in the male voice than it is in the female voice. Female voices are constantly flipping back and forth over. It's harder. I'm sorry, girls. I feel for you. I think sometimes it's harder to be a girl. It's more competitive to be a girl singer, and it's more complicated vocal technique. You know, I'm sorry, but I feel for you. You know, and I like working with you because there's lots of solutions for you guys. So anyway, yeah. So like it is hard, and figuring out that coordination going up and down is tricky. So how do you do it? All right, how do you do it? Well, one of the best tricks to figure out how to find smooth transitions high and low is start with sirens. They're a great tool. Just work on that the thickened on the bottom, and then letting go of the thickening as you go up, and then gradually smooth it out. Let me give you a little tip about this. If you're a young voice or a beginner voice with this, a trick that's going to help you is you want to try to take your chest voice up as high as let's see. It's be confusing to see this way, but. Well, okay, I don't need to show you the piano. I'll just tell you, take your chest voice up to like an E, the E above middle C, bop, 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 in that kind of range, because the trick to getting a smooth blend between your low voice and your high voice, listen, this is the key. You have to around it for guys, and for girls it's a little higher, but I'll explain in a second. For guys, around an E above middle C or F, bop, 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 getting so that that range, bop, bop, you can make a sound that's in your chest voice, clearly defined as a thickened type of sound, not a ba ba, not that sound like a loosened vocal fold falsetto sound, but a bop bop, a nice brassy, almost like a trumpet player playing a high note, not loud. Bop, 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 bop. When you can understand that sensation in your body, that's the key. That's the linchpin between the low voice and the upper voice being a smooth transition. If at that little bottleneck in the voice, that passaggio, that transition, bop, bop, you get too loud and heavy there, too thickened, bop, 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 it makes it really hard to get into the bop, 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 to get into that thinning out and smooth out that thinning up into the upper registers. So in that range, find a way to find that chest voice. There's some morning flumpsy. I'm not really warmed up this morning, but hey, who cares? It is what it is. So you want to find a way in that range to get as light of a pure chest voice as you can, and then it's going to transition much easier into and through your upper register. But if you go and then instead of taking, when you're doing, like, let me back up. When you're doing a siren, one of the ways you can mess that up is by not taking your chest voice all the way up to that upper part of your chest voice before continuing further. So, like, let me break down what I mean by that. If I go, and that's almost like, see, I didn't take my chest voice high enough, so there was a little yodel before I flipped into the head voice. So the way to solve that is to try to take the chest voice as high as you can and as light as you can before you let it go into the light voice, or into the thinner mechanism. See, I'm still in my chest-ish mix, more chesty mix there, so that when I get to it's a much easier, smooth transition into the top. And also what that does is that helps you maintain the vocal fold closure at the transition. One of the keys to a smooth mix is to not do it like this. Like this kind of open vocal fold. Because here's the thing, let's understand physics why. If your vocal folds are gapping like this, and they're not in a clean vocal fold closure, you're not getting the most efficient conversion of air to resonance that you can. Your vocal folds are trying to close, but you're keeping them open, and so there's like two muscles fighting each other, and the stretching, as they stretch, they want to close because they're tightening, but you're keeping them open, and so you're creating this muscle against muscle activity, which sucks. It hurts. If you drive your voice in that posture, it feels like scratching your throat. It's really not a good sound. It's a dangerous sound. It's like, So that vocal fold closure through the transition really makes that transition much easier, okay? And as you're doing that transition, try to maintain a consistent pressurized environment as you go over the break. If you start to press harder against your vocal folds as you get to that break, then the vocalis muscle is going to thicken against it and get heavy, and then your siren will cap out. So you've got to just give it a medium amount of pressure, like a 5 out of 10 on the bottom, and then as you go up, don't change or add any more pressure. Give your vocal folds an opportunity to interpret the pressure you've given and allow them to gradually thin out up and down over the break, all right? So you just do that a lot, and then do every permutation of exercises that put you up to the top part of your chest voice, and then pop over it into a light way, and then pop right back to the up part of your chest voice in a very controlled way. Do every permutation of that coordination as you can, like something like, I'll do it here because I'm not warmed up yet. You know, that coming in and out, that coming back. Do every permutation of that, okay? And by the way, this is one of those things where if you've got a song for guys and girls, that's flipping back and forth a lot, you want to really warm up that coordination in your voice before you have a gig. Like, I'm a crusty morning voice right now, and that would be the thing that would show a non-warmed up voice as much, is that transitioning. You got to really get that before a show. Make sure that's really working, Anyway, that's enough for vertical mixing. There's something more I do kind of want to say about vowels. There's a whole world. The vowels play a big part in this. When you get above that break, you want your mouth to kind of open up for the siren. But vowels that's a whole nother video that I'd like to get into. But I'm not going to apply it now, even though if you mess up the vowels trying to do this, it's going to make it not work. But this video is already 15 minutes, and it's only part 1 of mixing. I still have to do the messa di voce mixing. Later. Have a great week. See you at your lessons.